survived the Titanic. I knew that much. And I said, I just inherited $800,000. True story. And that was it. I did get a lot of people responding. A lot of people knew I was just joking. A lot of people responded to me and said, is this true? And everything else like that. I didn't make anything of it. I just simply had written that, got a lot of attention. In fact, I played in a trio in Newfoundland and all that. Until, of course, I get a letter from, that's my trail right there in the middle, a letter from Karen Thomas. By now, she's been searching everywhere on the internet, looking everywhere, reading books. There's absolutely nothing written about Margaret Maggie Madigan in 2001. She writes me this letter, June 18, 2002. Dear Mike, hello Mike. My name is Karen Thomas, and I live in Warren, Ohio, USA. There's a Titanic artifact exhibit at the Great Lakes Science Center in Cleveland, Ohio in the summer. I had an occasion to tour the exhibit, and upon entering it, you receive a ticket with the White Star logo and a name of the passenger on board. The name on my ticket was Margaret Maggie Madigan. This is the first letter I ever get from Karen Thomas. The fact that she was a third-class passenger and was a survivor was somewhat amazing to me. Realizing that she must have been a young woman of fortitude and strength, remember she was 21 years old, I felt compelled to research her, which led me to the site where you had a note last year. I am not certain if you have any real information about her, and she continues, as your wit probably shows that you're just joking, but I have to ask. Are you in any way connected with Margaret Maggie Madigan? And that was basically the letter there. Well, I was very embarrassed. I said, my gosh, here's somebody really doing some research. I didn't know anything about Margaret Maggie Madigan except when I was 11 years old. I knew she was a survivor. I'd asked my father about it. No connection at all, obviously. This is where truth can sometimes be stranger than fiction. Seize the moment. Remember all those women on the Titanic who waved off the dessert cart. That was about the interest that I had in the Titanic, to be very blunt and honest with you. I had no more interest. Maybe there are people here who had an ongoing interest. I read a book when I was 11, I said, since 2001. Since I get that letter from Karen in 2002, I really had no interest in the Titanic. No serious interest, no more than perhaps, you hear about it every now and then. You might see a movie or something like that. Karen says to me in a subsequent letter when I tell her, when I finally write her back and I say, yes, I was only joking, I'm very embarrassed about this. Why do you want to know about Margaret Maggie Madigan? She says, well, do you have any children yourself? I said, yeah, I got 3 girls. This is when they were younger. She said, how old are they? Back in 2002, I can't even see it here, but that's my daughter's wedding picture. That's Tara. She's about 24 there. Terry's about 21. And Gwen might be maybe 16 at that age. And I said, yeah, I got 3 girls. And she said, well, do you know how old Maggie was? This is back and forth with email. And I said, how old? She said, she's just 21. Can you imagine your daughter being just age 21 and going to start off a new existence? And then surviving a tragic ship like that, and then being rescued and then disappearing, like whatever happened to her? She said she must have been an amazing young person to have done that. Who was she going to meet? Not mentioned in any history book. I assume she's dead by now, she said. This was 2001, more than likely. Where is she buried? Did she have a family? Is her name on a tombstone anywhere? I want to know something about her. So I said, well, you can't really see that slide, but what it's saying is the quest begins. Somebody put that up on the website as well. The quest begins. And I saw this picture here with a lot of correspondence back and forth with Karen. Every time she would go and look up some new information, she would find out something. And of course, being a songwriter in Newfoundland, we had 2 CDs, working on a 3rd CD at the moment. I said, wow, what a fascinating idea to write a song about Maggie Madigan. Now, what do you write when you write a song? So I came up with this. I said, Maggie Madigan, Titanic survivor, 3rd-class passenger saved that night, lowered in a lifeboat with 65 others, adrift off Newfoundland. Oh, what a fright. I remember writing that very quickly. When you really get into the mood writing a song, you can write things, then you revise them. So So then I got out my guitar and I said, wow. Maggie Madigan, Titanic survivor. Third-class passenger saved that night. Lowered in a lifeboat with 65 others. Adrift off Newfoundland. Oh, what a fright. I said, I think I've got a good chorus there. Now, where am I going to go with this song? I could start talking about, well, where's Maggie now? What happened to her? But I thought, I'll bring in Karen. I'll start the song off about meeting her. So I wrote, many years later, a woman named Karen attends an exhibit in Ohio State. She is given a ticket with an Irish name on it as she passes through the entrance gate. Then I said, it's one of the names of the Titanic survivors. A Maggie Madigan is the name. So Karen begins to wonder about her. But there's not a trace. Oh, what a shame. There's not a trace. Oh, what a shame. When I wrote that, I felt this desire to want to finish that song. I didn't even have any material about Maggie except that I knew she was 21, and I asked myself later on in the song, well, where was she going? Who was supposed to meet her in New York? What happened to her? Is she on a tombstone somewhere, which I mentioned before? Did she get married? Did she have any children? We knew nothing about Maggie at that time. So I wrote that song, I presented it to the two fellows in my trio, and I said, we were just about finished our third CD, and I said, I'd like to include this song on our third CD. And they said, well, I said, look, listen to it. And when we listened to it, they said, I like it. We put it as a bonus song on the third CD. It's called Maggie Madigan